I'm Ben Clacy, Chief Executive of ITSMF UK. ITSMF is a not-for-profit organisation focused on helping companies with the best practice around IT service management, so helping them to get better at delivering their IT services.
And you're here at the Ovum Industry Congress today.
I am indeed,
How
yes.
have the sessions been that you've attended thus far?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, very interesting session from a guy about the future and the kind of the pace of change and how it's actually the same as it was in the Industrial Revolution.
Which leads well into the first question. And the conversations that I've had this morning thus far have been very much about IT providing more value to the business and demonstrating that value, but also having a means of communicating with the business better. And when we think about the updates and the revisions to ITIL last year, we look at the process business relationship management and more specifically the role of a business relationship manager. I think it's key, I consider it key in the way that IT can better communicate with the business. What's your thoughts on it, and what type of person do you feel ideally makes up that role?
I'm starting off with business relationship management. I think is a fantastic thing that's been highlighted in the latest edition of ITIL. I think it's something that's been around for a while and has certainly been needed for a long time. So I'm pleased that it's there. And actually the best way of describing that is looking at organisations that are already doing it. And there's kind of two ways you can take that. There are organisations out there that have business relationship managers, whether they're called that or service account managers or whatever it is. They are there in the industry. And then there's organisations that take the essence of business relationship management and kind of have that pervading through their IT team and business team. And I think both need to be there if you're going to do it properly. But the easiest way sometimes for an organisation is to put a focus on it, is to put someone in that role. And typically I think organisations take someone that isn't necessarily from an IT background and put them in that role, because they want someone that's going to be almost the face of IT to their key customers, that's going to be out there finding out what it is that the business wants. And actually a good example of that is I was with an organisation last week, and they had in the last year introduced someone as a service account manager, effectively doing BRM, and had visited them a year before, and they had a service desk that was a really good service desk. It was an exemplar in the industry, but by putting that role in the last year, they've made significant changes and have improved the service that they're giving, both as a service desk and as a wider IT organisation.
So did this person work very closely with the service desk then?
He was actually reporting into the service desk manager, which I find that's not something you see an awful lot of. I think that was quite good, because a lot of the time you see the service desk as the kind of front office or the face of the IT department. So I think it was a really good place to put this role.
Definitely agree.
And it meant that as soon as he got information back, it was fed straight back into the service desk and to the other parts of the IT team. But it's straight into the service desk, so they understood their customers more every time they got feedback, and so the next calls they were taking, the next issues coming up, they could deal with in a better way.
Yeah, and I think I probably share that view, probably due to my practical experience with the service desk, in how traditionally known as the window into IT. They're the guys that see the pain points of the business, but can also have that communication with IT and that awareness of IT too.
Yeah. And it helps that role as well, because if he's getting information or she's getting information from the service desk that something's happening that he isn't aware of, he's then straight back to the business to say, look, there's a disconnect here, we're not doing this right. So he is almost like an outlet of the service desk to make sure that the relationship works from both sides.
So sticking on the subject of service desk, and when we think about all these disruptive trends such as social and bring your own device, as far as the function of the service desk goes, how do you see that evolving over the next 5 years? What are kind of going to be the key change factors for the service desk?
So with things like BYOD and with users or customers being more adept at using technology or more used to technology, I think it's almost an extension of the shift left policy that you get in a lot of support teams, is that they're always trying to shift things from third line into second line into the service desk, so that the fix rate is quicker. I think we're almost taking the next step, which is shifting things from the service desk to the customers. So they'll do all of the basic stuff that you would have called the service desk for in previous years. And so then the slightly more technical and the more the tasks that they're not able to do then around technology will then come into the service desk then. So you're almost elevating the role of the service desk from what it's been as maybe help desk a few years ago into like a genuine service desk, and that they're going to help people with queries that really need someone to delve into it and work out what's going wrong, whereas the simpler things through self-service or through just increased technological awareness will be dealt with by the customers themselves.
Excellent. And touching on best practices, and ITIL is obviously the very dominant one in our industry, but recently we saw the release of Cobit 5. Have you had a chance to catch up on it yet? What's your initial thoughts of it, your opinion?
I've it's a good bit of bedtime reading. I've had a look at Cobit 5. I mean, I've always liked Cobit, and I've always liked the idea of making sure that IT governance fits in with corporate governance. I think that's something that, with an industry that is actually as young as IT is, can always be an issue. I think the more time that we have as an industry and the more we get towards business and IT being one and the same, which they are really, the more people I think will start to question, do we need a corporate IT governance framework? Should it not just be a business governance framework, and should it just be part of that wider good? So I think over the next 5 years we'll see that maybe questioned. At the moment that's there, and I think people like Cobit and people use it, and it's a good framework. And I think it all comes down to how you use these things. With ITIL, with Cobit, and when they're a framework or a set of best practices, it's actually down to how they're adapted and adopted. Particularly with the rate of change we have nowadays, I think the framework itself will only stay relevant if the people that are using it are making it relevant for their organisations.
Excellent, brilliant. Ben, thank you very much for your time today, my friend.
Thank you.
Excellent. Cheers, Ben.